Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something that runs our entire world, but most of us never even see it. It's the hidden code that defines what we call economic success. These are rules so deep, so fundamental, they shape pretty much everything around us.
So let's start with what sounds like a really simple question. How do we measure success? For a company, for a country, for our whole civilization. What does doing well actually look like? For decades, the answer, the main goal, has really just been one single powerful word: growth. Growth in GDP, growth in profits, growth in market share. For the longest time, this has been our go-to, our undisputed measure of progress. Right, but here's the thing. This focus on growth isn't just some idea we all agree on. It's more like a command, a piece of code that's embedded deep inside our system, and it shapes our reality in ways we're only just beginning to understand.
Let's break that down. You can actually think of our entire global economy as one giant, incredibly powerful algorithm. Just a structured set of instructions that takes in inputs and produces outputs day after day.
And every big algorithm, whether it's running your social media feed or the global economy, has these same core parts. You've got a goal, what you're trying to achieve. You've got a metric, how you know you're succeeding. And you've got a weighting structure, what you decide to prioritize. And let's be clear, this code is not neutral. It's built on a very specific view of how the world ought to work. And this is the really crucial flow, the central logic of the whole thing. Whatever we choose as our metric, what we decide to measure, that's what the system's going to try and maximize. And that determines where all the resources, all the money, and all the attention go, which, in the end, literally creates the world we live in.
So what happens when your main metric is just profit and GDP? Well, this system does exactly what it's told. It logically funnels resources into activities that extract value from our planet and our communities as fast as possible. And that's not a mistake. That's the system just running its code perfectly. Okay, so what's the price we pay for running this particular growth-focused code for so long? Because the results, well, they're becoming pretty hard to ignore.
And this is a really important idea to grasp. The crises we're seeing today, from climate change to social inequality, they aren't a bug in the system. They're a feature. The system is working perfectly. It's delivering exactly the outcome it was designed to deliver. You can think of our current system like one of those buckyballs, a structure where every piece is tightly locked together. You've got the constant push for growth, the profit incentives, the cultural stories we tell about scarcity. They all feed into and reinforce each other. It creates this really rigid system that's incredibly hard to change, even when the results are so destructive.
So you see the problem, right? If the code itself is the issue, then just tinkering around the edges, that's not going to cut it. The only real solution is to go right to the source and rewrite the whole thing with a completely new definition of what success even means. And this is a massive pivot. For years, we've all been talking about sustainability, which basically means let's try to do a little less harm. But what we're realizing now is that just trying to sustain a fundamentally broken system, that just kicks the can down the road. It doesn't solve the core problem. We have to make this shift from an extractive mindset to a regenerative one. So instead of linear growth, we think in circular life processes. Instead of trying to dominate nature, we build a partnership with it. We move from competition to collaboration and from short-term efficiency to long-term resilience.
And really, it all comes down to this one powerful question. What if we change the entire goal? What if we stop focusing on just reducing harm and start focusing on actively increasing the capacity for all life to thrive?
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Well, rewriting the code means we have to start by creating new metrics, new ways of measuring success that are actually aligned with this new life-affirming goal. And that starts with seeing value in a much, much bigger way. It's not just about money, right? It's about natural capital, the health of our ecosystems. It's about human capital, our skills and well-being. It's social and relationship capital, the trust we have in our communities. True wealth comes from a healthy balance of all of these. And this is where you can really see the difference it makes. We stop obsessing over things like GDP and market share, and instead, we start measuring things that really matter, like ecosystem vitality or community well-being or social equity. And this is already happening. You have places like the city of Amsterdam using donut economics to guide their policy. These new metrics give us a much richer and frankly more accurate picture of what real prosperity looks like. So the really exciting part is that this isn't just some nice idea on paper. We are actually developing these powerful new tools that can make this new regenerative code fully operational.
I mean, think about it. We can now pull together all this incredible data from satellites way up in space, from sensors on the ground, even from community reports to get a real-time picture of the planet's health. This lets us see the consequences of our actions almost immediately, so we can make better choices that are aligned with the planet's long-term health.
And this image, it just perfectly captures the end goal, which is this idea of reharmonization. It's about designing our cities, our economies, our whole way of life, to work with nature, not against it, to function as true partners. Just think about that for a second. The ultimate goal here is for us, for human civilization, to become like a regenerative organ within the planet instead of being this destabilizing force, moving from extraction to symbiosis. And that really leaves us with one last big question. If it's true that our metrics literally shape our reality, then what reality are we going to choose to measure into existence? Because the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we are actively designing right now through the simple, powerful act of what we choose to count.